What's up, guys? This is What If Issei was immortal. Now, I'm making this what if for y'all, my slick army, because someone from the army had said something. Well, my slick army, at least, had put, "Where's my What If Issei was immortal?" I put in that. I'm making it today. And guess what? I am making it right now. If y'all want to see something, ask where it is, and I will make it. Because most likely, I forgot. Not most likely, I just forget. Back to the what if. What if Issei was immortal? We start this video off noting that he was born at the same time. He's still only 16. And he found out he was immortal when he was younger. He'll still grow older, and he'll change his appearance, but he can't die. He noted that whenever he reached around the age of 16, his body stopped really changing. As in, he still looks the same, his structure is the same. He hasn't changed a bit since he was 15 years old. Now, what's this mean? Well, it means everyone's favorite harem protagonist is going to be immortal. Now, guess what? The guy who wanted me to make this an 18+, which it is. So, yeah. Too bad I didn't get no pictures for that, but I did get this. I got y'all a thumbnail, which you'll be happy about it. We start off with Issei full of happiness and joy. He's immortal. He has no reason to fear death. Death can't kill him. He can't die. He's happy. But this is when he realized something. No matter what he does, no matter how he acts, he's never going to change. He realized that no matter what he did, he was immortal. As I was saying, he was happy, but then he realized he'd outlive his parents, he'd outlive his whatever friends he had. Mitsuda Motohama would grow old and be old perverts like Master Roshi while he was still young. His body told him he'd never age again. If you're thinking, well, he's just 15, there's no way he knows he's immortal. Well, in this version, Issei got hurt. He scratched his arm up really bad, and he would try to hide it, but when it was dripping blood, it stopped. After a second, steam came off where it was cut. He was completely healed. The only showing that he ever got cut was his bloody shirt, as he would change shirts to a red one because he just got tired of getting blood all over his white clothes. Noting without fear of death, life was pretty meaningless. He could easily gain strength. His muscles would recover almost instantly. So much so that he didn't even feel it was necessary to do anything extra. His exercise was pushing his body to the limit, waiting about 5 minutes, doing it again, and it was as if he had gotten weeks of workouts in about a day. Which basically was how it was. He healed faster than his body could weaken. So he was just unstoppable. And he was surprised. He'd never felt any real... At this point, pain had really stopped feeling anything to him. Every day he wakes up by basically razor blades. He stopped really feeling the same way. He met Drake about a week before he even was supposed to be killed in canon. When he got Drake, this was his reaction. Just meh. He met the Red Dragon asking if he knew why Issei was immortal. Red Dragon did not know. What he did know was that Issei was far more kind than he was expecting for basically a walking dead man. He gave everything he could, but he never did anything. No matter how much effort he put in, he was never going to find a match for him. No kid his age, and no one ever knew him. This is when he wanted to delve into the supernatural with Drake by his side. Since he got injured so much more, he gained strength, and he would become more easy to awaken Drake. Now, Issei would figure out something really quick. When Yuma would ask him to go out on a date with him, he had no fear of her. He had nothing, since Drake said, "That appears to be a fallen angel." Issei saying, "Don't care what the fuck that is. I'm immortal. I don't care." And this is when saying, that's probably one of the only kind of beings that could kill you. As Issei with a smile on his face, he was happy to go. As he wanted to try more to see what happened. They went on their date. Issei thought it was just boring. At this point, he had to get some drip in because, with immortality with an infinite life comes infinite drip. He would be gaining quite better looks over the time since he would work out almost every day. And he can get years worth of training in about a week, so yeah, may as well. At this point, I'd say he's roughly as strong as a 6-wing fallen angel. If you don't know how that strong that is, I'd say it's about strong as shit. Look, it's stronger than Rias, at least, by a lot. Now, when Raynare would say, "Would you die for me?" Issei had a small smirk. And even though he was wearing his red jacket and all that, he would instantly change to this kind of expression. And if y'all say this is an Issei, it's literally, I looked up Issei fan art, it's Playboy Issei. And I went with it because it looks just like what he would look like with no fucks given. He would look at her saying, I can't really die, so I don't think I will. As a spear would hit clean through his chest, putting a clear red dot clean through his stomach. As he was dripping blood, it started to steam. He healed almost instantly, noting, the more I'm injured, the stronger my body gets, and the harder it is to injure it. She looked at him like she was terrified. There's only 3 beings that should be able to do this. A phoenix, someone who drank from the fountain of youth, and the genuine article of immortality. But that genuine article shouldn't exist. It's supposed to be only a worthy man, who is supposed to be able to trample against God. A man worthy to kill God is who should be the only one who can do this. And this boy was not worthy to kill a god. But it wasn't just supposed to be any god, it was supposed to be the strongest deities. This would only should be capable of someone who's got the ability to kill the strongest dragon god. As fear started to erupt in her, she took off running. But Issei was pretty quick. Her flight did make it harder to catch her, though, so he ran at full speed and couldn't catch her. This is when his body didn't give a fuck about limiters, so he didn't really have one. He shot with full muscle power out of his leg, shattering his bone, grabbing her by the back of the head and basically making her fall to the ground, not expecting his extra weight. As he would catch her and they would go down, she would wind up calling for backup. This is when Issei stops her, saying, "I want to talk to you. It isn't every day I get to speak to a fallen angel." What? Look, tell me why you were gonna kill me. Well, alright. It's fear. She just got caught off guard. With Issei just having a smile on his face, a little bit of blood on the side of his mouth, because he was still, have the injury shown, as his basically standing on his left leg since his right leg is currently still repairing itself. As it finally finishes steaming, he stands back on it and says, "Alright, so tell me," as they sat down on the park bench. And she would explain how Kokubeel was betraying Azazel. Azazel had no idea about this, and stating how if Issei how they were supposed to kill gear users, and Issei was the one she was going to kill. But she really didn't have a choice. If she didn't do it, she would die. Now, Issei took this as, "What do you mean you would die?" Well, as she states how if she didn't kill Issei would then how Kokubeel would just straight up rip her apart. She would stutter trying to get it out, but she would say it. Issei thought that was fucked up. Asked her if she liked to kill. She was honest, no. She had some sick pleasure in it, but she wasn't a fan of just murder. As in this version, Issei looked dead at her eyes and said, "Well then, I think we understand each other a little bit. Do you want to crash at my place?" And if you're wondering about Issei's parents, he has Drake, he knows magic, she knows magic, and they're pretty much happy that their son has a girlfriend anyway. She would be fine with this and go back to her Yuma form, and this is when Issei was honest. He thought her Raynare form was pretty hot. She was honest, that's her regular form, as he was happy to say, 10 out of 10. As she was really kind of blushing after hearing that. She actually liked Issei. Issei stating, well, we're basically dating, it doesn't really matter. I should be able to compliment you a little bit. She looked at him dead in the eyes and said, you know, you take guts doing that, kid. Why? Because a minute ago I tried to kill you. Yeah, but you couldn't. Okay, and what's that supposed to mean? You couldn't kill me if you wanted to. But what about your shirt and jacket? As Issei shows why he wore that jacket specifically, showing that it wove out like that, and that the spear didn't touch his jacket. This is when she states, what about the black shirt? Oh, it's pretty much just a basic one I bought at the store. The store's probably open. I have some extra money on me. Okay, let's go get you a new shirt then. As they would walk in, grab the shirt, pay, and get out. Issei would throw his old bloody shirt on the ground, take his old bloody shirt off in front of her making her blush just a little bit. He said, here, hold my jacket. And she would say, there's still a little bit of blood on it. I said, and? What's that supposed to do? It's just a little bit of blood. That's why I wear red all the time, as he threw his old shirt in the trash can, grabbing his new shirt and throwing it on. As he would basically put his jacket back on and saying, well, let's go. As this is when she states that she feels a little bit, since they felt a little bit of a wind chill, and she started shivering a little bit. He asked if she was alright. She said, yeah, it's just her human form gets cold pretty easily. Blushing a little bit, as Issei would take his jacket off and said, you know what, here, babe. Putting his jacket on her and walking her home to his house. As he would basically sneak her in the window. Or would have tried to if she didn't give a damn and just walked to him. And she would just walk in. Thinking it was fine, she would just say, hey, so I'm Issei's girlfriend. And actually introducing herself as Issei's girlfriend and saying her name was Yuma Amano, and does all that. His father is literally crying in joy, saying, Issei finally has a girlfriend. Yes. His mother saying, I didn't think it was possible. Issei looking down at both of them, saying, the fuck? Or at least thinking it. He wouldn't say it out loud. He would say, wow, real vote of confidence. As this is when she said, we're going to go in Issei's room and talk and just sit down for a while. I'll let myself out when it's time, when I have to go home, alright? This is when they said, isn't it a little bit late? And this is when she said, well, her parents didn't really care what she did, so she could do whatever she wanted. Hearing this, the parents were impressed and just left them alone. As they would basically say, we're going to go out and have a date night. Issei would say, okay. He would go to the fridge and pick up something out of his Issei drawer. It's basically just a fridge drawer where you keep the fruit and stuff like that. Just spray painted black with a note on it saying Issei's drawer. Do not touch. And why does he have this? Well, it takes a lot of energy to regenerate all that. Like mass that he loses a lot. Like there still was a clean hole through his back. It took a lot of energy. And honestly, he doesn't die, but he does get, like, when he heals, it just takes a lot of power. Usually it would use magic, but still, he does try to get enough food in and everything, so he doesn't just turn into skin and bones. He wouldn't die, he would just look really fucking weird. So he just grabs a carton of milk from there, and a giant steak, cooks it up, makes her her own steak, and they have a proper dinner there. She didn't expect him to make something like that, and actually thanked him a lot. As they would go up to his room for a little bit, and then they would talk. Talking would lead to a little bit of fun, and she would straight up talk about how she loved how strong he was, as she liked a guy who was so tough. She would use this whole thing to have fun with him, and even scare him up a little bit with her sharp nails and her Yuma form. But then her Raynare form came out, and they had fun. When they were done, Issei kind of had to take a break, as he would stand up and look eye to eye with someone he wasn't expecting to see. That little talisman he had in his pocket. Rias appeared whenever he said, wonder why Rias' servant gave me this. Basically, hearing her name, she would jump out with her whole peerage. All they see is that Raynare's laying there in the most blissful look of her life. Issei has a giant fucking grin on his face and looks dead at her and says, "What the fuck?" As he basically covers Yuma up and then stands up himself. Kiba pulling a sword out, being like, "What the fuck?" in fear. As Issei basically walks over to him and just straight up slaps and said, "What the fuck y'all doing in my house?" As Reese would explain how she expected Issei to die by Raynare and everything, to have to revive him, and all that is her pawn and all that. Issei laughs a little bit, saying, "I don't die." This is when Kiba said, "Hey man, could you put some pants on? That's fucking gross." Issei looks down, saying that he's just straight up freeballing, and looks at Kiba saying, "Fucking pussy. Why, you're afraid your little dagger doesn't compare to my actual great sword?" As this is when you hear the most maniacal laughter from Raynare, saying, "Well, as someone who's experienced it, it's fun." As Konako looks at him saying, "Meow, motherfucker." As she went to punch it, Issei swing it away. She would miss and was surprised. How'd she miss a target that big? She would say. Issei laughs at a little bit, and we're gonna go with some bullshit type of with some dumbass fucking way of monetizing this shit. So yeah, I might not be able to monetize this video, but what I will do is say this. With the giant smirk on his face, he says, "What, you want to grab it? Go ahead." As Konako would basically, for some reason, through instinct, grab it. Start playing with it as it swung around. As Issei said, "Ow, ow, ow, claws," as he would pick her up saying, "Can you stop? You said I could play with it," as she got into a really flirty voice. I guess I did, but whatever. As this is when Raynare said, "I don't mind you having a harem, but at least tell me who's going to join it first." And this is when she looks at Konako and said, "You know what, cat girl? You want to test your luck with that one? Good luck. You're tiny. It'll kill you." As this is when Issei turned, as Kiba basically said, "You know what? I've had enough. I'm chopping it off." As Reese, before she could even say, "Don't do it," since Issei was basically taunting him this whole time. One thing, guys. As Issei was taunting him this whole time, he would basically try chopping Issei's dangling off. As it would hit the floor, Issei was like, god damn it." As they would look down, and just to see Issei regrew it almost instantly, as he said, "That's fucking gross, dude. What, did you want one to take home?" As you hear Akano just laughing her ass off at this point. Doesn't want to be around a fallen angel, but is laughing so hard because Issei straight up just making Kiba look like a little bitch in front of everyone. Laughing so hard that she can barely even say a thing. As this is when Ria said, this is when she admits Issei is pretty attractive, and maybe she'll use that to an advantage. As this is when she offers Issei to become part of her peerage. Normally, it would offer an advanced lifespan, but didn't think that would do anything to Issei. He'd be around people who'd be as immortal as he is, though. As this is when Raynare would actually say, "No, I want him to join my group." As this is when Issei was honest. "I'm joining neither of your groups." "What? I'll take the abilities from both of them, though." What do you mean?" "Rias, if the time comes, I'll become your pawn. Raynare, I'll protect you with my life, even if I ain't able to lose it." As this is when Raynare would jump out of bed and start kissing all over Issei. As Konako said, "You know what? No, mine." As she would try pulling Issei away, Issei would pick her up as if she was nothing and say, Alright, whoever wants to join can join. Whoever doesn't, fucking get out. Kiba being the only one who doesn't, even Rias wants a little bit of that, but she walks out the room saying, well, I can't do that right now. While Akano gladly does. She would start to taunt Issei, saying, aw, I like a guy who's tough. Starting to shock him a little bit, he says, oh, really? As he would power up a little bit, and showing just a little bit of his strength. Now, you have Drake in the background of Issei's mind yelling, yes! Fucking yes! I'm so proud! He's my favorite host! Every other host looks dead at Drake like, the fuck? As Issei says, you know I can hear you, Drake. As they said, Drake? Hearing Issei speak, he showed the boosting gear. In its, of course, this form. Looking at them saying, well, yes, I am Issei Hayoto, I'm the Red Dragon Emperor. Rias heard this and immediately jumped back in the room. What the fuck? Issei, Rias, you were just outside? Well, kind of. I warped in here from where I was. Where the fuck were you? As this is when she admits she was at the window, looking at them. Issei said, you know, I kind of figured that was you doing that, but I didn't really care. It was either you or that Kiba guy. As this is when Kiba starts sneezing at his own place while he's doing his sword workout. The fuck's talking about me? As Issei started doing his workout a little bit more and a little bit more, you would hear, well, not his workout, but teaching the girls some stuff, as he showed how strong he was with the boosting gear. Even showing that he could even show this little fragment thing, he called it balance break. It wasn't balance breaker, he called it balance uproar. It was when he got one or two pieces of balance breaker armor. It wouldn't be as exhausting as balance breaker, but it would get him one hell of a fight. Now, because Issei can't really die, he could stay in balance breaker as long as he fucking wanted to, even if his body wouldn't let him. But it would start shattering underneath him, and he wouldn't die, but he'd have to, heal up instantly. Keep in mind, it takes him, a minute to heal, so he can fight. He just won't be able to fight forever. Well, he would, but it wouldn't be perfect fighting. He'd have to take a second, just become a tank, take a second, just become a tank, and all that. As he shows how the more damage he takes, the harder it is to injure him. This is when Akano wanted to test something, hitting him with her strongest lightning. Basically showing how she would weaken the capacity a little bit, and it wouldn't do anything now, when earlier a lot less was doing a lot more damage. Basically stating the more of energy he used, the better it was. The more injury he took, the stronger his recovery would be from that element or whatever. And he was already more durable than he was before. But, as we keep going, he would meet Asya the next day, as he would actually accept Rias' ability and take taking 8 pawn pieces. As he would also accept Yuma's and becoming a little bit of a joker card in her little deck of cards, which she had the ability to do, but doesn't really have anyone else. As the fallen angels were looking for for Raynare, and couldn't find her. Being led by Donaseek, Middle and Calwinner weren't really doing much else, but trying to find her. And what do? They do their best, but they don't do much. As they would find Issei's house, his parents were there. They would go to kill his parents, but they would be stopped, just barely, by Raynare throwing a light spear, knocking Issei's parents out, and convincing them to move to another part of the country, with sufficient funds that they have no clue where they got. Yeah, that's basically just taking them out of the story. They basically just take off. But Issei knows about this, and they would have to do it after Issei got back. When Issei got home, he saw Raynare's injuries. He saw how there was 4 light spear scratches all over her. Although they were only targeted at her his parents were fine. Sees what happened, he's pissed. He says, who did this? As she would say, don't seek Middleton Kelwerner, they wanted to leave her alive to leave a message. The next time, they were killing her and then coming for his head. As she would admit, she didn't tell them that he was immortal. As Issei had an idea, he'd walk over, find out where the church was, finding out that he couldn't get in because if he went in there, it would be a declaration of war, and heaven itself would try to kill him, or actually the fallen angels would have to try to kill him. And even he admits that he'd probably get his ass kicked if he was to try to fight against someone as strong as, Kokubila currently would probably kick his ass. He could probably put paws on him, but he'd probably also still get his ass kicked. He wouldn't do any better than Kiba did against him. As Issei has to face it, he would die if he fought. Well, he wouldn't die, he'd just be fucked over royally if he was to try to fight against Kokubila. But this is when he finds out about Asya. And because Rias has a ability to get stuff, and Asya's healing ability, she would actually wind up healing Raynare. In this version, when Issei saw her get kidnapped by Donaseek of all people, and Donaseek started licking his lips when he saw her, this pissed Issei off royally. He would walk in with no fucks given. Although, it was mainly Donaseek. As Middleton Kelwerner would straight up just be cocky and everything, and then threaten Issei, stabbing him with light spears, and he's wearing no shirt. He didn't want to waste money to buy a new shirt after this, so he just didn't wear one. He didn't feel he didn't need to have pants on, right? He was wearing jeans, but regular, work jeans. Well, not work jeans, he was wearing he was wearing a pair of basketball shorts, a pair of sneakers, and that was about it. He was wearing a red t-shirt, but he took it off before he walked in. Basically throwing it to the air, just knowing that Raynare would catch it. And she did. He would take his extra time to work really hard, beat the fuck out of all these exorcists. Freed tried cutting him up. Freed cut his arm off. Issei picks his arm up, heals it back onto it, cracks his arm, and starts beating Freed's ass. Then Freed straight up takes Issei's arm and actually chucks it as hard as he can. Issei can't get it back. This is when Issei, with a smile on his face, went to punch him with the severed limb, just for his knuckle to come back and be full fist as he punched clear into the face of Freed. Freed saying, "What the fuck are you?" "I'm an immortal." As this is when Issei would take his knuckles and start just beating Freed's ass. He would go down there. After doing this, as Freed would try to escape, and he does. Konako and Kiba are still the ones who tagged along, though. Issei uses his abilities to protect them. But it wasn't perfect. Now, there with all them, exorcists, Issei uses a dragon shot. And wipes about 70% of them exorcists clean out of the map. Now, this is when Donaseek tries to kill Issei, just to get his ass royally whooped. He tried getting Asya's gear, which he was able to do. Issei got Asya up to the same floor, set her down, and she passed in his arms. He was pissed. He would look eye to eye with Donaseek as he got up there, as you would see Middleton Kelwerner out the window. They were threatening Raynare with Issei's shirt in her hand. This is when you hear a bolt of lightning strike, and what can only be described as sheer destruction. As the light spear spikes up, Issei's favorite three girls, Rias, who he's got a deep connection with, Akano, who's just a freak in the sheets, and Raynare, who was his first ever. So he straight up was like, they gonna whoop. They gonna get their ass. They gonna straight up fight now. As Issei straight up just said, we gonna kill you now, Donaseek. Donaseek went to stab Issei, scratching him, but nothing more, as he would basically blow Issei's arm off. As Issei's arm hit the ground, Issei would have the time to knee Donaseek straight in the jaw. What the hell? Most people would flinch after getting their arm cut off. Well, about that. As it was back on, showing why he didn't wear a shirt since he was just covered in blood where he got cut, well, where his arm got blown apart, he starts beating the fuck out of Donaseek again, ripping his throat out, and then just grabbing the sacred gear, and giving it back to Asya. As he would relax for a minute, we'd get the time skip, we'd get a little bit of a time where Issei and all that stuff would happen, and he would meet and eat. We'd skip to the time when Rias tries to go into Issei's room in the middle of the night, and who but Grafia herself to go in there. Now, whenever Grafia calls him a mere servant, Issei laughs a little bit. This is when he said, well, I think you're confusing my position with yours. Oh yeah, what's that supposed to mean? Well, you're a maid. I'm an immortal dragon. I'm the immortal dragon. What do you mean the immortal dragon? As he shows Drake off, saying, I'm the Red Dragon Emperor, and I'm the only immortal you'll ever meet. A true immortal. As Issei didn't know how funny this was to her because mortals were the ones trying to marry Rias. As you would see how just absolutely beaten that this got Issei, the blood dripping off his face, a smile showing, saying, wow, you hit hard, but not hard enough. Now, Issei would go to the Occult Research Club, and the same thing would happen. At this point, he's probably stronger than he was against. He's able to go into full balance breaker at this point. So he's stronger than he was against the original, he was stronger than he was when he was fight against the... Look, he's stronger than he was against the White Dragon for the first time. By a good bit. This getting him a reason to fight like he does. As Issei would gain as much strength as possible, looking eye to eye with this guy. His name Riser. As he would threaten Issei, Issei would look him dead in the eyes. You don't scare me, boy. I am a god. Oh, I've heard those things before. As Issei and Riser basically have a proverbial dick measuring contest of who is the more badass between the two. Riser would prove that he's badass by stating how he is an immortal phoenix. Issei would just claim his badassness at the same time, saying, I am the immortal dragon. Looking at each other saying, oh, you really want to take my title, want to take my abilities type shit? As this is when they had to show off how they could prove it. Having Kiba cut one of their arms off each. As Grafia had never seen Issei's true immortality, she saw that he was tough as fuck, but that was it. As his arm was cleanly chopped off, Riser and him both had to take their shirts and jackets off for this so they wouldn't fuck it up. Their arms got clean chopped off. Issei's grew back first. Riser looked at him saying, what the fuck? Steam? Fucking steam? The Phoenix have flame. Well, it's not really just steam. It's just more my body heating up to heal. And what else can you have regenerate? Pretty much anything. As Issei found his head severed off its body. Still standing. Can't say a thing. He's there, he can't see, can't hear, can't do nothing. He would start to heal after about a minute, he was completely back as he cracked his neck. Okay, the fuck? As Issei would state, Look, Riser, I don't care who the fuck you are. If you ever take my head like that again, I'm kicking your ass. As he was still holding Issei's severed head. But with a smile on Issei's face, he basically just drop-kicked with a full-force kick and straight up taking Kiba's sword, chopping the third leg of Riser off with purpose. As Riser's thing hit the floor, Issei commented, "Was smaller than I was expecting." Riser took this as an insult and went to actually do the same to him, only to realize he didn't have a big enough sword. He didn't have a blade on him. He had to borrow his knights. His knights, he'd borrowed the dagger. As this is when Issei's commented, "You don't have a big enough knife." Oh, bullshit. Oh, fuck, I really don't. I need a full sword. Kiba, in a hatred of Issei, chucks him a full iron sword, which breaks on contact. The fuck? As this is when, out of everyone, you hear Riser himself say, "Damn, your poor girlfriend." Not really, I think Rias likes it. Hearing this, Riser was pissed. I'm gonna need you to run that back. As they're angry, and tempers just start to flare more and more at this point. They have their fight, same 7 days of training. Issei trained like hell. And in the end of it, he beat the shit out of Riser. But Riser still would wind up winning whenever he was basically torturing Asya, and Issei couldn't do a damn thing about it, because every time he went to go closer, he was sent flying with an explosion. Wasn't killing him, just sending him back. As he saw Asya just getting, pulled, and almost like she was gonna die, Issei was enraged. He yelled, "Balance breaker!" as he flowed towards Riser and Riz didn't know Issei was still standing, much less that he was flying towards Riser, so she had already given up. As they had to acknowledge it, Issei went there the next day, pissed, right into Riser's face, and said, "You know what, Riser, 1v1 me now. Alright? King versus pawn, oh fuck." The fallen angels are just straight up sitting there at the sidelines watching this happen. Well, Raynare is kind of hiding in the background, letting Issei kill. Issei's beating the fuck out of Riser this whole time. At one point, Riser cleanly stabs into Issei's chest, and Issei's body heals around Riser's hand, so Riser can't pull it out. Sorry about that, guys. Riser was thinking about just tearing his own arm off and beating the shit out of Issei then, but he wouldn't do it. As Riser was armed down trying to punch Issei in the face, Issei was just unloading punch after punch after punch. And in the end, he didn't even need holy objects. He literally was just standing over Riser's exhausted body. He wasn't even forming flames. It was more steam, barely even a small hint of steam, healing Riser's injuries slowly. As Issei tore the arm off and threw it on the ground, there was actual blood coming off of it. As the flame had started to kind of die out, there was a small spark, as Riser was able to somewhat heal over time. As he would say, "I'll never get," and he was basically kicked straight in the side, shattering his leg, kicking it clean off. Using the leg as a bat, Issei was beating the fuck out of Riser with his own leg. And then, of course, Issei won that fight. They fight against Kokubile. Kokubile thinks he's tough shit. Not after Issei starts beating the fuck out of him. And I'm talking, he was fighting, not caring about his own safety. Kokubile was stronger, he had more abilities. Issei just wasn't gonna die, so every time Kokubile would try to stab him, Issei would use that as a lunging advantage, let it just straight up stab into him, he's just beating the fuck out of him. Now, whenever he threatened Raynare, Issei straight up tore the arm off of Kokubile. When the White Dragon came up and saw Issei in Red Dragon armor beating the fuck out of Kokubile with straight up just beating the hell out of him, he watched that for like 5 minutes straight, eating fucking popcorn, watching watching someone who was considerably strong enough to be considered a powerhouse in their world, just getting absolutely owned by someone who was the Red Dragon. Now, in the end of it, the White Dragon still grabbed Kokopil and took off, tearing his wings off still. But in this version, when they went to the meeting and Issei had to fight him, it was a whole different fight. Now, of course, basically they would go through the whole fight similarly, but Issei would eventually still get the upper hand when he was enraged, using his immortal body, shattering his arm. But in this version, instead of Katsuya being able to take one of Azazel's arms, Issei pushes him clean out the way and took the punch, and had his own arm ripped clean the fuck off. As she said, "Oh, I love the taste of blood." Oh, fuck. As Issei was just punching the shit out of her with his other arm. At this point, she was getting really tired of getting her ass kicked, and went to self-destruct, but Issei held her down, blowing off most of his torso. As you could see, barely any torso left. After a few minutes, he was healed up, cracking his neck, saying, "Alright, who's next?" Went against the White Dragon Emperor, won that fight. He would still do that same fight to protect Asya, but in this version, when he fought the guy, he straight up was just stomping him out. When he went to Juggernaut Drive, it was straight up just murder, since he could go in it for an infinite amount of time, since he has infinite life force. As he would utterly kill the dude. Now, Issei was still calmed down when everyone had to jump his ass. Like, straight up, Sir Zex had to jump in, fucking Michael had to jump in, Azazel himself was wearing armor and jumped in. The White Dragon Emperor was trying to slow his ass down. At one point, Great Red himself slowed him down. And in the end, they were able to get him back to normal. He was still strong as fuck, though, so he was still ready to kick all the ass. But seeing Ozzy was alright was making him happy. As they sat down and really just enjoyed what they were doing, Issei went to have a fun night with all the girls, and did. But in the end of it, he was exhausted. He knew he was immortal, but he didn't know how far he could push it. So far, he's had his entire torso blown off, and he was fine. But this is when he actually asked Rhea something. If the time ever came where he wanted to be gone from this world entirely, could he ask her to erase him with her destruction? And she would say she couldn't do that. She just wouldn't do it. As he would go to Sir Zex and Mildred, or whatever his name was, the nephew of Rheus, asking them to do that kind of favor for him, if he ever begged it of them, to kill him, to erase him perfectly from existence, in a kind of final thing. He wanted to cease to exist. They said, sure. Even stating that if it was his will, they would do it. Eventually, he would work his way up and fight Ophis, defeating Ophis, and wind up even beating Great Red. Taking his spot atop the throne as the strongest creature, he would actually state that he was tired of it. He wanted to be done. As in the end, Great Red would kill Great Red, taking the Dragon of Dreams and turning it into a mere hatchling again, reviving Great Red, but he wasn't the same Great Red. He was a mere child now, a little hatchling, no bigger than a gecko. As Great Red would still grow in size eventually and go back to his normal size about after 100,000 years, and Issei would have Great Red, Ophis, and everyone else that was like the strongest points in the creatures, even Shiva, kill him that day, as he would leave the world off to his descendants, having not realized what he had done, leaving one of his descendants as immortal as he once was, not knowing that he would be revived into one of his descendants about 2 years later. After death, he was revived. He knew who he was. He went back to his full power and just decided to take over the world again. And that was about it. And that's the end of What If Issei was What if Issei was immortal 18 plus? See you guys.